And boom, we are recording. All right. How much time we got? We got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Let me get out in case anybody needs to get in. Who can I hitch a ride back with? That's what I'm talking about.
Rafi,
Mhm.
will we be able to take the House of Nobles tomorrow, or are we still waiting?
Which House of Noble? Talking about the level 4?
No, the one right by the hive, level 6.
What? What level 6? There's no level 6 around here. You talking about the city?
City, yeah, House of Nobles.
No, it doesn't open up till 7 days.
Oh yeah, what am I doing? Yeah, I see. But we can take. Oh, okay, I see. That's why we can take the one right above. Okay,
We're going
I see.
tomorrow. This is
That's why
gonna
you're
be
doing 1 and 2.
tomorrow. This one's gonna be simultaneously. We want to capture this one
Hang on, let me.
both at the same time.
Sorry, let me get back to the chat. Sorry, which one?
The two fours.
Okay.
We're gonna go for them at the same time.
What about the 5? Is the 5 gonna open anytime soon?
The five doesn't
That
open
one?
for 3 more days.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, for 3 more days, we got time.
I
Yes.
see.
Okay. Who has not? All right. Can you pause the mute the mic? No, not mute them. There we go. All right.
Your mic is on. Your mic is open.
The handsome commander. Okay.
All right, I'll mute him. It's something that with me.
Okay.
Maybe Saul can help us. Oh, here, sorry.
Okay. We're good. All right. Sweet. Here we go. All right. Hey everybody. Thank y'all for being here. Hopefully, I hope y'all enjoying season one. All right. Today we're gonna talk about squad power. I've been getting a lot of messages. Hey, how can I increase my squad power? What do I have to do to make my squad power, get stronger? All right. I'm gonna do it as if I was a free to play player. All right. And usually, as a free to play player, I probably don't have Stedman. I probably don't have William. I may or may not have Marshall, depending if I've gotten them. All right. I'm probably running my squad one still with Scarlet. All right. I'm still rocking Mason, and I'm probably still rocking Monica. All right. If this is your squad one, all right, because you want to focus on one squad, all right, at once. Tanks are cheap. Everybody has tanks. All right. If you're pumping a little bit of money, go for air, but you could still be a free to play player and pump air. All right, missiles, you already heard people, they're more expensive. All right, but you can still be free to play and or low spender with missile. Just it's going to be very hard and very long, especially now switching over to it. But still being tanks is still good because guess what you can do as a tank? You get to beat missiles and you get to beat the people that are pumping all this money into missiles. But let's say this is typically everybody's squad. All right. Heck, we can even take it a step further. All right, and their squad is pretty much this. They only have one UR hero. All right, which is Kim. And they have nothing but purple heroes at this point. All right. If I was a free to play player, very first thing I will have you check is go to all your gears. every single one of your gear. All right, on all your heroes. All right. If you have any purple, all right, or blue, whether you leveled it up or not, I want you to take it all off. Take off all that blue, purple gear, and you definitely better not have green gear. All right, but take it off. All right, take off the purple here. You don't want that. All right, just go in here and destroy it all. All right, and get all that ore back. If you pumped some of your purple gear into it, just get it all back. All right, yeah, you're gonna miss out on a little bit of gold, but it's all right. All right, that's number one. All right, number two is depending on your squad setup. All right, you want to focus on your attacker first. All right, and also your defenders also as well. All right, Kimberly's probably going to be your best attacker if you're running tanks as a free to play player. So you definitely want to pump her up. How are you going to pump her up? All right. Well, you want to put the best attack gear on her. All right. Watch as I literally just take off. All right, her gear. We'll do a comparison real quick. All right. That's where I'm at. In squad power. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and take off her gear, and I'm just gonna put some level zeros. Yeah. Granted, for me, I'm gonna drop a lot in power because of how high up the level 40s are. All right. So as you can see, I dropped a little bit in power. So gear, all right, is a good way to get your squad power up. All right, for your heroes. All right, it's a good way. We get plenty of ore, whether you're free to play. All right, so saving those ores, all right, for your gear, all right, is very critical for you to get your squad power up. All right. Another way to get your squad power up is also your march size. All right, the more troops, all right, your heroes walk out with, whether it's 10, 9, especially once you get your T10s, all right, because you're gonna see one T10 has a crazy amount of power added to your march size. All right, you're gonna see that your squad power for your squad one is gonna go up. All right, but how do you get your march size up? All right, leveling up your hero. This is why I keep saying, hey, focus on your one squad. All right, focus on that one squad, whether they are purple, all right, or whether they are you are. All right, focus on that one squad because remember later on down the road, all right, let's say you have all right, a low level, all right, with no star hero. All right, remember you're gonna be able to transfer over, all right, those stars, and those attributes, all right, to that UR hero. All right, so that's why there's like, yes, you could pump your UR, but you're you're giving out on all the power that you've already pumped into your purple heroes, all right, especially if you're like free to play or anything like that. All right, but gear, all right, getting your gear to at least level 40. All right, because we already know blueprints is very rare to get. All right, but at least getting your weapons, all right, I mean your gear to level 40 is a good way to increase your squad power. That's why I say, hey, if you have purple, blue gear, whether they're leveled up or not, just take them off. Take it off of all your heroes. Take it to the gear factory and dismantle everything. All right, then what you want to do is you want to set up your squad depending on what you got. So for Kimberly, all right, if I didn't have armor for her where I'm at right now, I will focus on the left side. So your left side is your attack attributes. All right, how much damage? All right, your these weapons are gonna, this gear is gonna do. All right, because this provides attack and critical damage. All right, but this also provides attack and a little bit of resistance to all types of damage. All right, your right side is all for your defense. All right, so for my defenders, so if I'm running this type of squad, I'll go here to Scarlet. All right, and I'm gonna give her the best defense gear. All right, I want her to be a defender. All right, before she becomes an attacker. So if you have a level 30, gun, all right, but yet, all right, if you have Kimberly set up like this, and yet you have Scarlet set up like this, all right, no bueno. Scarlet is a defender. Lily says it right there. Hey, she's more capable of taking damage. Take that strong, weapon off, all right, and go put it on your best attacker. All right, if your best attacker is Mason, put it on him. All right, if your best attacker is Kimberly, all right, put that weapon, all right, the left side on your best attackers. All right, which is these guys right here with the flames. All right, your best defense gear, you want it on your best defender. Eventually, yeah, you're gonna want your first squad to have level 40 gear, and then eventually you're gonna start upgrading them and getting them uh, their stars or their balls, whatever you want to call them. All right, but you want to make sure the correct gear is on the correct hero. If they're defenders, put the best defense gear on them. All right. If they're attackers, you want them to have the best attack gear on there first. Then eventually you're gonna start working their defense gear. All right, because remember, as tanks, all right, tanks did just attack straight ahead. They're not like air or missiles that also attack the back row. All right, tanks do attack the back row, but there's only certain ones, which is like Kimberly and Stepman. Kimberly does her barrage that attacks random enemy. And same thing with Stepman, with his attack also. But you don't have Stepman or anything like that. You have Mason or Monica still. You're waiting for these other here to catch up. All right, and which is fine. Still keep rocking these purple heroes. You already know he's gonna turn UR. All right, and when he turns UR, especially if you got him maxed out, his buffs are okay. His buffs are okay. This is probably the only good one, but this only works against monsters. But regardless, his little buffs that he got, they go up. So now he becomes an even better attacker till eventually you get something to replace him. All right, with probably a Stepman. All right, your end goal is to have UR heroes. All right, to 150, and also at 5 stars also as well. If you can't get to 5 stars, at least get them to 4 stars. All right, as you can see with my missiles, they're all at 4 stars minus McGregor. All right, because with McGregor, what I'm gonna do is I'm literally gonna do a transfer. All right, between Mason and McGregor in season 2. I'm literally gonna transfer his stars, all right, to him right here, and I'm still gonna have enough shards to even get him to 5 stars because I've been pumping Mason pretty good. All right, come this season. All right, you want your main squad. All right, you want them at 4 stars. Why at 4 stars? Well, at 4 stars, you unlock, all right, this right here. All right, all the heroes have it. All right, this right here provides an extra 20%. You know, to that hero. All right, that's more for your squad power. All right, at a minimum, get them. All right, get them to 4 stars. Then eventually, you want to get them to 5 stars. All right, like for example, my Tesla. Tesla is about to be at 5 stars come next our next push. Then after that, I'm gonna focus on Swift. So notice I'm focusing on one hero at a time. All right, I'm not trying to do Tesla and Swift at the same time. No, right now I'm working on Tesla. All right, getting him to 5 stars because his exclusive weapon comes out next week. All right, and then I'm gonna work my way to Swift. So that's what you should be doing. All right, with your squad, getting them to 4 stars at least at a minimum, and then you know then once they're all at 4 stars, then you work on one hero and get them to 5 stars. All right, get bringing them up in stars. All right, is gonna also increase your squad power because you're increasing your hero's power. All right. Another thing that's also overlooked is skills. All right. I'm gonna use my missiles for an example because that's what I'm currently working on. All right. Skills also provide a certain amount of power. All right. We've posted the cheat sheet. All right, on our lines of which skills you should be prioritizing first. All right, over the other one. All right, as you can see for like Adam, the cheat sheet Lily told us. Lily told me like, hey, prioritize this one right here. All right, because he does counter attack. Eventually, you're gonna start seeing players put Adam in the back. All right, because if you read right here, when he's at 4 stars, all right, your entire front row also receives counter defense. Counter defense is literally when he's in this little bubble. All right, when you see that little bubble on him and or the front row, all right, he's in that counter state. Hence why I'm focusing on that skill. All right, the cheat sheet is out there. If you need us to repost the cheat sheet of which skills, all right, you should be pumping your heroes to. All right, just let us know. We'll repost it again, or somebody can go grab it and post it on the chat. That'd be great. All right, let me go to my attackers. All right, like Tesla. The cheat sheet said, hey, focus on these, and then this will be last. All right, because this gives out the most damage. All right, that gives out the most damage. All right, this is more critical. All right, he's doing these two right here. This is his auto attack. He's always doing his attack. All right, and I really want him to do the most damage with his special attack. And then yeah, his energy damage that's gonna be great, but it's only 22%. I rather what sounds better. All right, 654.36%. All right, or 22%. I think this does more. All right, this buff right here just buffs these up. All right, but getting these up right here, all right, will provide you more damage. And again, pumping up your skill medals. All right, for your one squad. All right, but pumping the correct ones. All right, is also critical. For example, the purple heroes. All right, you got to read them. All right, Scarlet, she's a good defender. You guys are gonna see in season 3, if I'm not mistaken. All right, when she becomes you're gonna see a lot of people use Scarlet. All right, because of how well of a defender she is, plus a little bit of attack. All right, you're gonna see people using Scarlet a whole lot. She becomes a good UR. But you got to look at her skills. All right, this skill right here, if you read it, is for monsters. Well, I'm not always gonna be attacking monsters. If you read this one just says, "Hey, boost her defense in battle." So that means against monsters, against slays, against world boss, Doom elites, PvP in the arena. So you want to, read the buffs, all right, and not just dump in your skill medals, all right, but read exactly what buff goes to what. All right, if this attack said, hey, uh, this flamethrower right here does extra damage against monsters. Well, she's a defender. I don't need her to do extra damage against a monster. If it said that, I want her to be a defender. I want her to be defending as much as she can. All right. Same thing with Mason. All right. If you are running Mason, this buff right here is the only one for against monsters. These other buffs right here, they work on PvP or PvE. you know. But this one right here is really for the for the world boss. All right, because a world boss is a timed event. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to do as much damage as you can. All right, to the world boss. All right, and that goes for the three that always show up around the capital also as well. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right, to do as much damage as you can to that world boss. All right, as you can see, I haven't pumped Mason. All right, because I'm waiting for him when we do our push to get him to UR. I'm literally gonna dump all my skill medals into him and then get all those skills medals back. That's what we say is, hey, wait on pumping Mason. All right, so you can get all those skills medals back. All right, to you. All right, so you can use it for other heroes that you'll probably prioritize a whole lot more. All right, but skill medals, all right, or skills is also another way to increase your squad power, but making sure you're putting them on the correct skill for the hero. All right, we love running Monica. All right, we love running Monica because of this buff right over here. All right, but she has other buffs. All right, this one right here is for monsters, and then this one right here is for PvP or just in general all around. All right, so you gotta ask yourself, hey, am I always going to be going for monsters or do I want to go for other players? Well, I want to do the most damage as I can against other players or in the arena. All right, but again, skill medals is another way, all right, to boost your squad power. It's not a whole lot, but it adds the attributes if that makes sense. All right, because as you can see for my Murphy and Williams, I still got these at 5, but yet their defense is pretty up there. All right, for my Williams and my Murphy. All right, because they're defenders, they're not attackers. I don't really use these guys to go attack the world boss. I mainly use them to attack other players or in the arena as defense. They're meant there to soak up all that damage. All right, so making sure you know where you're putting your skills at is also important. You know, you don't want to pump this up to 20, but yet these right here are still at 5. I know you want to prioritize them being defenders, and then later on for them to be, attackers. All right. Any questions on gear, um, on skill medals, and even on stars? Before I move on to the next part that boosts up your squad power. Nope. Okay. Hey, I talked about march size. All right, how do you increase your march size right here? All right, if you literally click on it, all right, it literally tells you, which ones are providing an extra march size. All right, leveling it up your hero, all right, increases their march size. The more troops they walk out with, all right, the stronger that squad is going to be. All right, building boost. This building boost is actually coming from, all right, my tank center. All right, the tank center, all right, is a good way to not only boost their exp and all that good stuff, but that's a good way to boost, all right, their march size. All right, and it's been proven. Let me go. All right, right here. That's my march size right there for my squad one that I currently have set up. All right, this squad right here can walk out with 1,914. All right, if I go here and let's say I remove Mason and I put him with a little blue hero. All right, my march size just went down, thus my squad power, all right, went down. All right, because not only is he a low hero, but also his march size is pretty low also as well. You know, um, let's put him back. All right. Another way to increase your march size is tech. All right. Tech is probably where you're gonna get a good chunk of your power from. All right, but from where? Unit is a good one. All right, hero. All right, is a good one. Good old special forces is a good one to get that squad power up. All right, how? Well, unit boosts literally the unit. So those troops that they walk out with, your T7s, your T8s, your T9s, all right, eventually your T10s. All right, when you bump one of these up in percentage, all right, or whether it's in special forces, by this right here, that's every single unit is going to get a small percentage power buff. All right. That's why if you ever seen your squad power go down whenever you run out of T9s and now you're using, a lower tier troop, you kind of see your squad power go down. Well, T9s are always stronger than than T8s and T7s. All right. But I bet you if your tech, all right, if you got your tech up, all right, you could possibly. That's why you probably heard people say, "Hey, you could be a strong level 27 headquarters level." All right, like Anubis. I don't know if you ever heard of Anubis. He's from Peace. All right, he's a strong level. Well, he was a strong level 27. All right, what he did was he went in here and he pumped. All right, the key ones, but specifically his special forces. All right, he went in here and pumped this bad boy up as a level 27, and he really pumped all his resources, especially all the way up to right here to unit morale. All right, because he wanted all his heroes, not his heroes, his troops, all right, to be a whole lot stronger. But yeah, he's a level 27. All right, you couldn't get into his defenses whatsoever. Whether you were a strong level 30, you had to be a whale to actually make a dent in there. All right. Let's see. But yes, tech. How to get your squad power up is tech. I'm gonna tell you this: if you have not maxed out development to right here, oh, to right here, all right, you should not be trying to get your squad power up just yet. All right, focus on one thing at a time. All right, then move on to the next one. All right, because once you're done with development, everything else is going to be a whole lot easier. All right, you're going to be using less speed ups. That means you could be using more speed ups to train more troops. All right, maybe get use more speed ups to speed other tech up or anything like that. All right, to get your squad power up. All right, because again in development, that center area, everything right here, all these speed ups that you're saving, those universal speed ups. All right, just by having this, it's gonna be days upon days, all right, that you're gonna be saving, all right, that you can actually use for other stuff, all right, to actually use your speed ups to actually rush unit, to actually rush hero, all right, to actually rush special forces and all that good stuff, all right. If you have not done that part right there, don't even try to go for these. Focus on one thing, and then you can start focusing on all the other stuff. All right. Hey, Squad One. All right, this is controversial. All right, because Squad One does also give out a little bit of power, not a whole lot, but Squad One gets used, um, you know, here and there. All right, it mainly provides a buff whenever you're attacking, or it provides a buff mainly when you're defending. All right, but Squad One does provide a little bit of a buff, but you want to know which ones, all right, to go for, which is these bad boys over here. All right, these right here, all these fours over here. All right, and even the death rate is also a little bit. All right, all these right here, they're they're like little extra stuff, but they don't provide damage. All right, you want the stuff that's gonna hurt the enemy the most, and that's gonna be these right over here. All right, Squad One is always cheap. I'd highly recommend people to do that one because it's very 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 cheap. And if you have VIP, Squad 4 is also just as cheap, but really half the time you're only going to be attacking with one squad. All right, and you could be using the other one to do other stuff and all that. All right, another way, all right, to boost your squad power. All right. Once you have, all right, your ultra rare gear. I mean, not your ultra rare gear. Your UR hero. All right. You gotta ask yourself. All right. I got a UR hero. All right. Let's say I just got Shirley. All right. I'm like, you know what? I want to start using Shirley. That's my brand new UR hero. All right. That I just got. All right. I got her to um. Let's actually set it up. All right. I want to start using her. All right. I want to finally stop using Oh shit! I got two defenders. There we go. I want to stop using him. He's an attacker. Shirley's an attacker. He's a purple hero, but she's a UR hero. Well, shoot, you got him at 4 stars. She's still at 0 stars. I continue to use him till you finally get her either above in power. All right, and you'll know. All right, they're above in power. All right, because watch how I swap. All right, this guy right here. All right, for Lucius. Lucius is a little bit lower level. All right, but he's at 3 stars. Lucius is at 0 stars. Look at my power. All right, when I swap them out. All right, did y'all see my power? All right, y'all probably noticed. With Lucius, I have a slightly little bit more. All right, but then you got to look at what he's bringing to the table. Did you pump some skill medals into him? All right, Lucius probably still doesn't have any skill medals. All right, so it's not ready. Yeah, he's providing a little bit more power because he's a UR. But this purple hero right here is still good. All right, so this guy right here finally catches up, if that makes sense. All right. Another one for boosting your squad power. All right, is the drone. All right, whether it's the drone itself. All right, is gonna give you some squad power, and also come in here to the combat boost. All right, just adding those chips that you're not gonna use. All right, for example, all right, my missiles, I'm still rocking a purple. All right, it's at 3 stars. I'm probably gonna still be rocking this 3 star purple, um, even if I got this one. I'm gonna compare and contrast. All right, but this is also a good way, all right, to provide some squad power, all right, to your missiles. Let me actually. All right, look at my squad power when I take off my missile chips. All right, it's not a whole lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, see it. All right. The chips provide good squad power, but they also provide good attributes. All right. They provide good attributes. All right. These attributes that you're getting. All right. For having it at 3 stars, look, you're getting damage boost. All right, by 8% plus your skill boost. All right. For having your drone. All right, at level 150, the next breakthrough is 300.
Ralphie, can I inject here something?
Mm-hmm.
Like in your example just a minute ago, you were showing how switching chips changing the squad power. The one little point there is that your tank chips are better than your missile chips, and when you were switching it, it was actually shown that with tank chips your power is higher. However, important to know that this is a paper power. These like 3 millions of power that chips provide wouldn't have any effect on missile squad, and that's what's called like the paper power. There are a lot of in that number, 18 million of squad power. A lot of that is actually means nothing, and just maybe like 6-7 million of the squat power is actually something that matters. This is why, like, you are meeting someone with 18 million power, and he's hitting someone with 21 million power. It feels like someone is twice stronger, because, like, I would say maybe like first 12 million doesn't even count. It's paper power. But here you can see you switching chips, and it's showing you the that your tanks like go into the missile like squad and switch chips over there.
Yeah, just did.
And yeah, and like set the tank. You see, it's even grew right now. That's paper power. It added to the squad, but it won't do anything for your squad at all. So in fact, it's same as running. Can you uncheck it? Can you switch? Oh yeah, set it for squad 3, for example.
No, I don't have squad 3, remember, but I know what to do.
Yeah, so it will be pretty much this.
Alright, that's my missiles without chips. Alright, so that's my missile without chips. Watch as we're gonna bring everything all together. Alright, we're gonna bring everything all together. Alright, y'all just saw me swap out the chips. Alright.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My apologies. What if you have a squad? What's the best way to do it if you have a squad that's mixed? Say it's air and missile, for example.
Alright.
You're gonna focus.
So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you when I.
My air is the strongest part.
I'm gonna show you when I get to the arena on that. All right. Yeah, I'll show you when I get to the arena. Let me just dress up my missiles. Who did I just took off? Yep, that's this guy. I'm telling you, if they say, "Hey, you want to pay $5 to have a button that says remove all gear," I will pay those $5.
There is a problem with that, and I hope they will never do, because there will be a number of players who will use it against you every 5 seconds. They will be switching gear on all of their squads in between every single attack, and if you won't keep up with the amount of clicks per minute they do, you will be at disadvantage. And trust me, there are people who can do way more clicks than us. So hopefully they won't do it. At least it's annoying for everyone.
Yeah. And this is Tesla's gear. Make sure everybody's dressed. So what I did just now, I took off my best gear, all right, and I put it on my missiles. All right. Right now, my missiles. All right. Look at their squad power right now. This is with gear. All right. This is with gear, not even with chips. All right. Once I add the chips, all right. Now my missiles, all right, got a little tiny boost, all right, off of it. All right. So gear, all right, and chips. Making sure your chips are on the correct heroes. All right. Now then, Cap just asks, well, what if I have like a mixed squad? All right. Typically, most free to play players are probably running this type of ordeal. They have they got DVA, they got good old Kim. They might even have Murphy and
Marshall.
and maybe they're running Marshall. Now let's take it up further and running Mason. All right. some people might have it like this. If I had this type of squad right here, all right, I still gotta ask myself, well, what's gonna be my end game? Am I gonna switch to tank? Because I got three tank heroes and two air heroes. You gotta ask yourself. Eventually, I want to get rid of some of these heroes to finally do the conversions of like, hey, I'm gonna be fully tank, or hey, I'm gonna be fully air. All right. It all depends on your preference. What would you prefer better? If I'm going to switch to eventually to air, all right, I will prioritize leveling up. All right, my air. I prioritize getting DVA to at least 4 stars. All right, and then Carly to 4 stars. All right, and then slowly, all right, start working on my air. All right, eventually I'm gonna tell myself, oh shoot, I want to get rid of Mason, because what did we say about Mason? He's good for a world boss, like tremendously good for the world boss, but he's not good for PvP. Maybe once I've gotten my Morris into level, all right, I maybe got him at level 150. He's probably still at this many stars, but everybody else, they're up in stars. Now I'm gonna focus on him, in the background, because again, you're you're still running Mason. Mason is still pretty good. He's at 5 stars. He's providing an okay amount of damage. All right, and then I'll say, hey, I'm gonna go air. All right, I've slowly worked on Morris in the background. I got him to level 150. I probably got him to. I finally have enough shards to get him to 4 stars. Boom, I'm gonna replace him with Mason. Maybe I've been slowly working on his skills also as well in the background. All right. Then later on, when you're like, all right, I'm still gonna switch to air. All right, who's next? All right, who should I replace next? Well, ask yourself who is closest to being next. All right, between the two air heroes that I still got left, all right, Lucius and Shirley, who will be the closest? Well, Lucius. Lucius is already at level 69. All I got to do is now focus with him in the background, get him to 4 stars. All right, level up, a couple of his skills, and then finally replace Murphy, all right, with Lucius. All right, I'm still running Kimberly. Kimberly's still a good, attacker. All right, but now I'm running a 4-1. All right, 4 air, one tank. I'm gonna still keep using Kimberly till I finally get her to where she needs to be, whether it's level 150 and then she's at 4 stars. Then I'm finally gonna be like, all right, boom, I've now established an okay air squad, not the greatest, not a just press the button air squad, all right, or a Sal air squad, but this is an okay. They're all at 4 stars. All right, I think by then DVA is probably going to be at 5 stars, maybe even Carly at 5 stars. All right, but now I'm running a full air squad, by doing it. Um, and then don't forget your chips. If you're telling yourself, hey, you're gonna eventually switch to air, well, you should only be creating, all right, air chips. All right, you should only be creating air chips if you know you're gonna be switching to air. All right, you're like you want your mind set in stone on one squad. All right, you want that one squad to be like, hey, this is gonna be my main squad. All right, that I want to work on. All right, because later on down the road, when you get to the masteries, all right, I'm gonna do a class on the masteries once they open up for me. All right, and you're gonna see like I'm gonna do one mastery at a time. All right, I'm gonna do literally one mastery at a time. All right, and I'm mainly gonna start on with missiles for me. All right, for you, your mastery should be, if you're air, your mastery should be aircraft. All right, if you're tank, you should be going for your tank one first before you even start tapping into these other ones. Because what's the point of you saying, "Oh, I'm a tank," but yeah, your mastery is at 75% in aircraft? That's that's not adding up. And then you pumped all your stars and everything to your tanks. All right. What that's saying is like you're kind of confused on what you want. All right, so always focus on one squad. All right, focus on one hero at a time. Get them to where they need to be, but still spread it out. All right. Same thing with like the skill medals. Don't pump all your skill medals into one hero. All right. Don't pump every single skill medals. Like that's what we say. Hey, do them five levels or get them to go up in increments of five. All right. Like my next push, I'm gonna get this to 20. I'll probably get this to 10, and I'll probably get that to 5. I'll probably get that to 20, 20. Debatable if I'm gonna get that to 10, 20, 20. All right, I'm spreading out my skill medals now. All right, so that all my missiles are equally doing damage and or defending at the same time. Um, in the arena, all right, I get questions about it also as well. All right, I'll see it. I'll even see it against my opponents. All right, they'll have their best squad. Where you at? Sure. Okay. The gear. That's why. All right. Let me just save it. Let me redress them up again.
And our favorite part again.
I know.
At least I built a methodic. I'm undressing them all, and then you have to know which hero you dress first, and then you quick using quick equip all the time, and then there are a couple of items that you need to replace, but they're always at the top of a list, so it's easy to do. I need to show it once, like it speeds up this process like twice.
Yeah, I know these are all 40s, so I know who they all go to.
Oh yeah, when they're all even 40, this is even simpler.
I know. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll see it in the arena. All right. People have their squad like this. They'll have all their tanks. All right, and in their one squad, then all their missiles, and then all their air. All right, this is just for the arena. Spread them. I spread out two squads. All right, so because remember in the arena you just need to win. All right, two out of three. All right, this is my shit squad right here. Like no bueno, like nowhere near. All right, but these bad boys over here, what I typically do is I want an attacker and a defender. I'll take an attacker and a defender. And where you at? There you go. I typically put you there. Put you there. Yeah, you stay right there. And yep. All right. They're not fully all together, but they're pretty much even in power. All right. And it makes it kind of hard for the enemy to be like, oh, shoot. Dang, this is going to be tough to beat. You know, like doing this method right here, it throws the enemy off when you have a little mixed squad. All right, because you're still getting a little bit of buff, from this right here, doing a 3-2. All right, sometimes I even do a 4-1. Sometimes I'll just take off William right here. Yeah, where's McGregor? I'll just put McGregor here, and I'll put William here. All right, in case I know like I need a little bit of extra power to attack this other squad. All right, and then I know this squad right here, just having Stepman in there is going to be able to take on that other squad. But typically, what I like to do is I always leave it like this. Oh shit! All right, so like right here. All right, my only goal is to win 2 out of 3. You see right there, he has all his missiles, all his tanks, and all his air. All right, I'm not even gonna bother with his tank because that's his best squad. All right, I'm just gonna move my tanks over here, move my missiles over here. Now then, my tanks, all right, are going up against his air. All right, you gotta kind of use that judgment of like, man, do I have at least, all right, 2 to 3 million powers ahead of him? All right, in this case, I kind of do. All right, I usually go for it. All right, and I know my missiles can definitely take on this bad boy because guess who I have in there? I have a nice little stepman who's gonna do extra damage on all those missiles over there. I'm probably gonna lose this one. No, oh shit, won it. All right, and then look at battle reports. All right, see how many losses you had. See which hero was dying first. All right, go to statistics. All right, see how much you know what an actual comparison it was. Like I actually like 110 actually died from me. All right, and he lost 17, but I hospitalized a handful of his players and see who was doing the most damage. You know, remember when I said Stepman is gonna do some crazy damage? All right, because that's all missiles. All right, and tanks beat missiles any given day. All right, and I also like to look at their gear. Oh, would you look at that? I forgot to dress my missiles. All right, look how much power I just added. All right, just by putting gold gear. Come on. Let's see where they're at now. Boom. All right, now they're kind of even in power. All right. Who is this guy? Oof. This one's a little tough one. 2 million. He has 2 air.
You got it.
Yeah. All right. Notice I didn't go for his air. All right. Even though his air was okay-ish, or this one right here. All right. And then I typically like to look. Ooh, this one was a close match. All right. Very close match. All right. If this was an actual battle, I would have been losing. Yeah, I would have been filling up his hospital, but look how many I'm actually losing.
Can you also play a video of this battle? I want to see who was dying first. What I'm interested is what kind of gear you need from to defend from which kind of attack. These are all mostly energy damage.
Murph. Notice how William is soaking up all that damage.
You see, in this case, it would be better to put Murphy to the right and Williams to the left because Murphy gives a buff to an entire front line. and Williams only keeps the buff for himself. So he is capable of soaking a little bit more damage, and while Murphy is alive. But it was pretty upsetting to see how Murphy died in assuming the fact that you have the gear, the Raider at 2 stars already. They melted it, but it's a counterattack, so air helped a lot, and they always hit the first position at first.
Yeah. But all right, let's do a recap real quick. All right. So squad power. All right. If you have all right purple gear, blue gear, whether it's level 30 blue gear or purple gear, get rid of it. Get it off of your hero. Just dump it into the gear factory. Get all those ore back. All right, and actually use those ore. All right, on gold weapons. All right, actually use it on them. All right, get them. You want to go up in increments of 10. All right, and you want to go in increments of what's gonna give you a good buff. All right, like for example, this is the last ultra rare gun. I mean, ultra rare gear that I have to get to level 40 because I mainly prioritized his defense, then his chips, and then last was his gun. All right, this is my very last ultra rare weapon that I need to get up in level, and I just need ore. That's it. All right. Yeah, just get rid of it. All right, dump it all into the gear factory, get all that ore back, and actually use it on ultra rare gear. All right, prioritize your attackers and your defenders. Once they have all their stuff, then go back and give your attackers defense. All right, defensive gear. All right, all right. Once your attackers, all right, have good attack gear, whether you have it at 40, all right, and then your defenders, all right, got good defense gear. All right, then go back to your attackers, all right, and give them good defense gear. All right, and then your defenders are they're gonna be the last ones to get attack gear. All right. If you have Marshall, he's like in the middle. All right, he's not an attacker and he's not a defender. His whole purpose is to provide a nice little buff to everybody in the squad. All right. His gear honestly can really be the last one. All right, if you're a tank, all right, focus on Kimberly or Stepman. If you don't have Stepman, all right, then focus on Mason's attack gear first. All right, if you don't have Mason up in level, then focus on Monica's attack gear first. All right, because remember you're gonna be able to take it off. All right, if you don't have William or Murphy, you're rocking Scarlet and Violet. All right, should be focusing on their defense gear. All right, nothing but their defense gear. All right, first. All right. Shards, getting your squads to at least 4 stars, so you could get this buff for this hero. All right, prioritize that first for all your heroes, getting them to 4 stars. All right, and then getting one hero at a time. All right, to 5 stars. All right, like for example, my Tesla. He's my one hero that I'm solely focusing my shards to get him to 5 stars. First, and then afterwards, that's when I'm gonna do Swift. All right, then after that, it's gonna be Fiona. Last will be Adams, and you already know what I'm gonna do with McGregor. All right. Getting them up in level. All right, boosts their attributes, but mainly boosts their march size. All right, getting your center, whether it's the tank center, missile center, or the aircraft center. All right, getting that up in level. As you can see, I'm about to go to level 30 very soon. My missile's at 25. Later on, I'll be pushing it to level 30. Now I have my two centers. All right, at level 30 for my two uh, squads that I'm working with. But I'm mainly going to missile. All right, I'm just doing the tank just to still be able to hit the world boss. All right, a whole lot better. Tech. All right, unit, hero, special forces, and a little bit of squad one. All right, is where you're gonna get where you're gonna draw out that squad power from. But you shouldn't be working on these if you have not done development. If you have not done the middle of development. If you have not maxed out development all the way up to right here, all right, to save yourself on speed ups, all right, that you can use now on these, all right, you shouldn't be working on your squad power just yet. You could be using ores to get your squad power up. You could be using hero exp to get your squad power up, all right, and then using the rest of your resources to get your development up. So then now you could be able to start working on all this other stuff over here. The drone, all right, provides squad power, all right, and as well as the skill chips, all right, provide squad power, all right. Do I have any questions at this point? We're at an hour.
Mythical gear.
Mythical gear, that'll be
Yes, it's what kind like it. Well, technically, let me just plug in here. If you're playing air, it makes sense to get your red gun first. This is where your first 10 mythical blueprints goes. If you're playing tanks or you're playing missiles, it's advised to do the rudder first. The reason is the buff that mythical gear provides and the scarcity of mythical blueprints. You need to grind almost like half a year in order to get your first couple of sets of mythical blueprints, enough to upgrade two of your gears. And if you look at the bonus that the gun provides once it becomes mythical, it's only 10% boost against the enemy who you already counter. So if you are playing missiles and attacking air, you will get extra 10% boost. I'm playing with relatively weak missiles right now and against relatively weak air. I can say I don't need this boost. If you're playing air, there are 70% of other players who play in tanks. So technically, it's a shotgun approach. You are trying to kill as much of an enemy as possible. So therefore, this 10% of extra boost will help you. You will make your squad last for a few more attacks, and it's great. But if you're playing missiles, you will be searching for that air player. You will do a hit. He will find you. Like he will realize that he's been hit and counter it. He will get away. So that's kind of like rather a sniper approach. And this gun like won't give you much advantage. Instead, it's better to look at the armor and at the rudder, because the bonuses that they provide are countering all the crit damage and all the crit rate that the other squads may have using the marshal or using the unit decos that gives the crit damage. Technically, rudder reduces the damage from the crit hits. Crit hit is something that usually melts your squad. If during the skill damage attack, the main attack that happens right after the drone strike, for example, if missile will attack your tanks or attack your air, missile usually countering like focusing on the back line. If your armor is not there, if your rudder is not there, your attackers will die before your defenders, and technically and practically eliminating your entire squad. So reducing the damage from the crit hits and reducing the rate of crit hits itself is ultimate survivability. Therefore, before you even pump the gun to become making it red, it's way more advised to get all of your players with both red armor and rudder. It's It's quite debatable for some players, but I think the red gun only gives advantage to air. It does, the last mythical upgrade, of course, increase the boost attack and increase the attack itself and all these nice things, but the scarcity of mythical blueprints rather dictates that you will get way more value from using it in other spots.
I will tell you this. If you don't have your gear, your first squad's gear at level 40, you should not even be thinking about, ores or red guns just yet. Get them all to level 40. Get these percentage buff. All right. This is how I'm going to tackle gear. All right. I'm actually going to go and get my gears mainly to 2 stars, prioritizing the radar, the gun, and then the armor. All right, on all my heroes. The chip is probably going to be the last one that I'm even going to touch, and that'll be like a year and a half from now. All right, but I'm gonna at least get them to 2 stars. All right, because the percentage buff that you get from going from like 4 stars to red, it's very small. But yes, it adds up, but it's not a whole lot, you know, because you'll probably see yourself like, man, all I have is 2 stars on all my gear, and yet you're here demolishing all these people that had red gear, one red gear, all right, on their squad, but then all their other gear is trash. All right, all their other gear is probably still at like a level 10, 20, 30. All right, and it's not up in there. Let's look at.
One last moment that I wanted to add about the gear and why it's better to prioritize upgrading it to level 40 first is gold. Because when you start pumping blueprints into the gear, it eats up a lot of gold. And currently, I'm in a situation where the gold rush is real, and I'm about to finish my T10s, and at this point, I'm even gathering gold, like which I never did before, because like that extra 1 million per day. I mean, it adds up, and I need every single big piece of it. So I already have like 250,000 of ores that I cannot spend because I need gold, and I would already put a couple of stars inside the gear, but it would set me back 300 million of gold, and that's like one of the T10's upgrades. So cannot do right now, but this is why I was prioritizing all of my gear to level 40 first, because those upgrades are very cheap compared to stars.
Check the chat. I just posted a picture of why you should not touch gear if you're trying to rush for T10s.
The amount of gold that's and you got to do that 4 times, so that's 200 million, over 200 million, just to get it to the next, the next one.
I think 5 times.
But look,
Or things doesn't take gold.
but look at this right here. This is his tank. All right, his tank is at 22.6 million in power. All right, he has okay gear. All right, he has a couple level 40s, but yet his marshal is still lacking. All right, like this setup right here is pretty okay. I would have done this star right here on the radar. For Kim over here, but look, he still has his marshal. With level, below level 30 gear. You know, um, yeah, he could have done a little bit better approach, at least getting finishing up Marshall, and then start working on the other gear and all that for everybody else. If you have Kimberly and you got her exclusive weapon, and I think if you have her at, I want to say level 10, But yeah, her gun is 2 stars. Take that 2 star gun, and if you have Stepman, all right, put it on Stepman. All right. Stepman will benefit more from that critical damage than Kimberly will because her exclusive weapon has a nice little buff. Just food for thought. Just throwing that out there. But hey, that's it, everybody. If y'all have any questions, feel free to ask.
What
Thank you,
happened with
Rob.
that? What happened with that versus group? Did you guys have a good time with them?
They were all right. They were
Uh,
okay.
um,
Anyway,
I'll just make friends with 1998.
yeah. What question you had chosen?
Oh no, whole same thing.
Oh no, I appreciate y'all for swinging on by.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate y'all for swinging on by. Anybody else questions? No. Alrighty, let me stop the recording.